The Consultant is a thriller black comedy starring Christoph Waltz on Amazon Prime. The series was created and written by British screenwriter Tony Baskelot, based on the 2015 novel by Bentley Little, and takes place at the workplace of a mobile gaming company. On this podcast, we like to discuss the latest installment of a different series every show. The pilot here is called Creator. You're listening to today's episode. So, there are four people who are most responsible for this show. The star, the creator, the author of the original book, and the director. And I have a game here where you get to guess which fact isn't real. One fact per person. Okay. Ready? Writer and creator Tony Baskelot, he also created The Servant and Hotel Babylon, is cousins with Macaulay Culkin, and originally wanted him to play Rupert Grint's character on The Servant. Number two, Christoph Waltz is actually not just an actor, but also a trained opera singer. Number three.
That sounds true.
Okay.
I almost want to say that's 100% true because he did acting kind of late, but go on.
Okay, Matt Shakman, director of the first episode and executive producer, has directed everything from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia to Succession to Game of Thrones, was originally set to be the director of the next Star Trek film before dropping out because of scheduling, is actually signed on to be the director of the new Fantastic Four movie coming out in 2025.
They're making a new one?
Maybe. Okay, and the last one is the novel the book is based on, written by Bentley Little, writes all his books by hand instead of using a computer. And he's written a lot of books.
Okay, I'm going to say that the second and third one are automatically true, and if I have to guess which one is false, I would say...
So you're saying that you believe the Fantastic Four movie is going to happen?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, because I think I heard
it would
about
be the third reboot in, 20 years?
I'm going to guess that the first one is false. The Macaulay Culkin related to Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, that's true. That's false. You're right. He did create Servant and Hotel Babylon. Hotel Babylon is a show from a really long time ago that was on the BBC. But one thing I wanted to point out about the Fantastic Four movies is that fans are campaigning that John Krasinski and Emily Blunt play Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, and Susan Storm, Invisible Woman, but also that Zac Efron play Human Torch.
Why? Why Zac Efron?
They just think it'd be a good setup.
You know, I the more you're talking about the Fantastic Four movie, the more I remember hearing about it, and I was very disappointed that John Krasinski wasn't going to be playing Reed Richards. I know they also have
They haven't confirmed who is.
I know that he said that I don't think he was going to do it, but Hangman from Top Gun Maverick, I know, is set to be in the movie as well. Mm-hmm. Anyways, it's funny you say the thing about the guy directing It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia films because this TV show because this TV show starts off and right away I was like, oh, this feels like Mythic Quest, which I know stars one of the actors from It's Always
Mythic Quest is a super light comedy, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, and that's what this starts out as.
That's what I thought as like a Silicon Valley.
That's what I thought it was going to be because I heard the name The Consultant and I saw Christoph Waltz was going to be in it and I was like, oh, this is going to be some type of action TV show. But we start off with a group of kids visiting this video game app facility called Compware. It's a high-tech facility and there's multiple TV screens and coders and assistants and workers and there's even some corny jokes that are being thrown in. We're introduced to two likable leads, Elaine and also Craig.
And you recognize them, of course, right?
Yeah, Nat Wolff I recognize.
Nat Wolff from Death Note, from Fault in Our Stars, and Naked Brothers Band.
It is always funny seeing him just in anything now because, I watched Naked Brothers Band when it was back on Nickelodeon. Also, his brother has become famous as well. They're one of the very few actors who started off being child actors for Disney shows or Nickelodeon films and then actually got a big career later on.
I don't know if that's true, but you're saying that they started in Disney and launched.
Nickelodeon.
Ariana Grande, right?
Yeah, but then
Selena Gomez.
Yeah, but the brother was in Hereditary, right? He was also in Old, and then you have Nat Wolff. I think he was in Paper Towns, and then now he's in this. It's just
no, I think he was in Paper Towns. I think you were saying Nat Wolff. Yeah. And then Brittany O'Grady. Also, we've seen her before in Little Voice. She was the star of that, the Sarah Bareilles show from New York. She plays Elaine. He plays Craig. And they're just hanging out doing their job?
Yeah, mean, Elaine is she calls herself the creative liaison of the company. Wasn't really sure what that meant, but basically she's the secretary for the CEO of this incredibly successful person named Sang, who created Compware. Apparently, when he was 13 years old, he like was able to make his first very popular game, and ever since then, he's gotten like 37 million downloads on the original game. He has like over 100 games on like the Apple Market or whatever.
How do you find out all this information?
She's telling this all to the kids that she's escorting around the company, and she's showing them all the coders and everything. So like the first 3 minutes, I was like, all right, so this is not what I thought it was going to be. This is completely different. And then what happens? But Craig comes up the stairs. He starts talking to Elaine because the kids have gone into the room to meet Sang, the runner, the CEO of the company. And Craig is like, yeah, I'm going to pitch this new game, and I was enjoying it. And then suddenly 5 gunshots ring out inside, and I was like, wait.
So there was no foreshadowing of that not to happen.
No, none of that at all. And so Elaine and Craig then run in, and they see a kid. He's holding a gun.
Kid?
Yes, it's a kid that does it. He hasn't shot any of his classmates, but he did kill Sang, like with 5 bullets straight in the chest.
Wow.
And he turns to them, and he basically goes, I want my mommy, and then it goes to the intro.
So, like, he was possessed or something?
Oh, no. I don't think that this show is going that supernatural, at least as of yet. I think.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out why the kid did it then.
Yeah, I mean, and they don't really go back to ever explain really what the kid's backstory was. It really isn't about that. I feel like they just wanted a way to try and get Sang out of the company, because very soon after the intro, in a quick scene where we see Nat Wolff, or Craig's character, he's not able to sleep. He's going for like a late run. He goes back to Compware. He sees that Elaine is there. She's taking out cameras because apparently there was a lawsuit that Sang wanted to put cameras in just to like see what was going
Make sure
on
everybody's doing the
at
job.
the company. Yeah. That's when we're introduced to Regis Platov. Very strange name, but that's Christoph Waltz, and
I don't even think that's his name in the book, but I could be wrong.
Well, we figure out why he's named that later on in the episode, but he must be one of the oddest and evil characters, aside from maybe killing people, that I've seen on television.
Do you see him kill people?
Well, no, you don't, but that's what I'm saying. Like, everything else this character does is just strange and very off-putting, and yet very evil as well.
Well, they said that, the director said that they just started with Christoph Waltz going on set, and they said, just be you. And Christoph Waltz said, I want to see a script, and they said, no, just do what you would do.
No,
I'm kidding.
No, I know, but it's funny you say that, because it's like, I was thinking about it, and Christoph Waltz is a great actor. He plays the same character in everything.
Yeah.
Even in Django Unchained, when he plays the protagonist, or he's a likable character, he still has that sense of evilness. He's like Ron Perlman, where it's like, even if he's playing a good character, there's still some damaged part of him.
But there's no subtlety here. There's no way that he could actually be a good guy who's just kind of being portrayed in kind of an evil sense.
He starts off, and I'm not sure if you're really supposed to know exactly how evil he is, because he's like having trouble getting up the stairs, and like Craig is helping him, but it's very soon revealed later on that like, yeah.
What's the first thing that like gives it away?
Well, right after he goes up the stairs, instead of like paying attention to the police tape, he goes underneath the police tape of where the shooting in the room happened, and just opens it up and like starts sitting down and like opening up the blinds, and there's still like blood spots everywhere. It was
He could just be an eccentric.
Yeah, yeah, maybe at that point, but also he like wants everyone to come back to work the next day, like right after the shooting. He's calling
like
a 9 a.m. floor meeting,
Yes.
and then at the end of the floor meeting, he makes like a really bad joke about Sang being sad that he missed the meeting. Those things, the one that died. And then at the very end, there are some people on Zoom, and he's like, and everyone who's working remote, you have exactly 1 hour to get here, or your contracts are terminated.
So he's just a asshole.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a woman in a wheelchair who literally is like seconds away from getting in, and then he like locks the doors on her, and he's like, yeah, no, it's an hour, and she was only a couple seconds late.
So is it funny? Or
I would
is
say
it
so. The first 20 minutes had me. You say it's a pitch black comedy, or
a pitch black comedy?
A black comedy? Is that what
Yeah,
you
it's
call
a black
that?
comedy.
Yeah, like that's to me where that comedy kind of came into play. Just how strange
satire.
this guy is. He's like sniffing people, and he's like introducing himself, and he's talking about this stench that he like can't get over, so he starts just sniffing random employees that are there.
Watching Corporate, I remember Lance Reddick played kind of a strange boss as well, but like it was clear that he wasn't 100% evil. That's that's why I was wondering if they were going to try to like spin it both ways, where he made friends with some
No,
people. And then he
I
hated
saw
others.
a couple episodes of Corporate. I remember after we did the podcast, and yeah, I remember even we were doing it, when I was like looking up information for it, I saw that Lance Reddick was apparently studying psychopaths, but he still comes across as a likable character. Like you said earlier, Regis Platoff comes across as a complete asshole in this.
And
thing.
you just follow him, right? Like, even though you mentioned Craig and Elaine, it's supposed to be basically his show.
Well, actually, no. Elaine
No?
and Craig are the main characters for this show. I'd say
Good.
that Regis Platoff is probably rightly third billed.
So what happens?
Okay, so Elaine and Craig, they keep on witnessing this guy's crazy behavior.
His
And they're
antics.
like, there has to be something behind this, because apparently saying a couple, I think like weeks before he ended up dying, signed a contract with Regis Platoff and basically saying, yeah, you have like control of the company and like you
Like a controlling stake?
Yeah.
Had the guy bought up the company?
yeah, basically, and like legal will be on your side, and they're like, this makes no sense as to why Sang would have actually signed this agreement. We need to figure out some stuff that is going on. So Elaine and Craig, when they're out at lunch, are like, okay, we need to get our hands on some footage, because possibly Regis Platoff could have come into Compware, and we could see like how that interaction between the two of them went down.
So they're playing detective. They're trying to figure out why their boss would have made such a bad deal.
Exactly.
And then what did they find out?
So there's this little sequence where Elaine goes into the room as Regis Platoff is again introducing himself to the top floor. It felt like the top floor were more important people in the company, and like sniffing them. And then she ends up figuring out the date, because that's when they need to pull the footage from. And right as she figures out the date, that's when Regis comes back into her room and sees her, and she's needing to come up with an excuse for her even being in there. And this is when the show for me had a turning point of actually turning kind of bad, because we're about 20 minutes into this show.
It isn't only like
And
30 minutes?
It's only like 30 minutes, yeah. But the final 10 minutes I was not a fan of, because it seemed like they took too many liberties with suspension of disbelief.
Okay.
Like the fact that Regis Platoff would even be working in that same room when there was police tape and there would be no, like, I don't know, officials coming in being like, you can't do this here, is already crazy enough. But then...
Well, usually they clean up a crime scene.
Yeah, but then what Elaine is doing is she ends up like grabbing a tissue and starts wiping the blood off of the glass, and it's like that literally is just tampering with evidence. Like this whole entire thing is just absolutely crazy. And she's like, yeah, you know, I was just trying to kind of clean up here. And then he's like, all right, well you can go grab a sponge and grab some water and do that. And I was like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. Like literally, this thing is crazy enough. I can maybe buy, for the sake of the plot, Regis working in the same room. But when you start like messing with evidence, that's when to me it just kind of cut off. And it turns even crazier, because then Regis Platoff is like, I figured out what the source of the smell was that was turning him crazy, and he's like, it won't be a problem anymore. And she's like, great. And it turns out that he's fired one of these people named Ian, one of the top floor people, because he didn't like the way that he smelled. And so what ends up happening is Elaine, she comes in, she starts wiping off the blood, and then she goes to bat for Ian, because Ian apparently is a great worker. And then Regis goes, all right, I won't fire him, but he's kind of your problem to deal with. And if he smells like that again, then I'm going to fire him and you. And I was just like, what did this show turn into? Like, it was fine when I was seeing Regis do these funny things like that were kind of evil, but this was just going like overboard. And if that's not enough, what happens is Elaine brings in this like this full bucket of water and a sponge into Ian's room. Ian, I guess, was tasked with going to pick up soap. He comes back to his room, sees that there's a bucket, water, and he has, again, soap in his hands. And he's like, oh no, I'm going to have to bathe to get rid of my smell. So he starts closing the blinds, takes off his clothes, and starts like bathing himself.
So she didn't tell him what it was for?
Yeah, no, he just suddenly somehow knew.
Okay.
I was like...
I somehow got it wrong. That was not what it was for.
No, but this is where we figure out that Regis Platoff is not his name, because apparently on the soap box it said, and I have it written down here, this is all an abbreviation, regular U.S. profit after tax official, but all of that abbreviated is Reg U.S. Pat off. And then they do this kind of cool pan where like that kind of dissolves into the door that he got his name written on. And at the very end of the episode, Elaine and Craig, they're going through the footage, and they see that Regis Platoff didn't have an appointment. He was like sitting in the lobby for a full hour, and when he went up to the room, You could just see that they were talking, and suddenly out of nowhere, Sang performs oral on Regis Pladoff, and then Craig is like,
That's how they ended?
yeah, and then Craig was like, is Sang gay? And then Elaine was like, oh no, he's asexual, and that was the end of the episode.
What an odd thing for her to know, and also for them to see.
Again, for the first 2/3, it did a good job of keeping this mystery.
It's like a balance, and
I
then
was
it
enjoying
just
the
tilted
acting.
one direction.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe if this was later in the season, like episode 7, where it's supposed to go even crazier, I could understand them doing some of the plot choices.
So
but this
it
is
rushed.
the end of the first episode.
So yeah, it rushed too much at the end there.
Exactly,
What
yeah.
would you end up giving the episode?
Overall, I would say a 6 out of 10 because
So it still passes?
Yeah, it still passes, and I think even if I were to watch maybe the rest of the season, which I'm probably not going to do,
8 episodes.
I'd probably even rate it a higher score because the show definitely has some potential. It really had a lot of stuff that I liked in the first 2/3 of it. It's just that last third where I was like, what is going on here? This is way too crazy.
So synopsize, what are your pros, your cons, and then... Yeah.
Okay, well, a good sense of mystery. The beginning was shocking and really well done. I mean, suddenly those bullets came in, and I was like, what?
It reminds me a little bit of The Good Doctor. No, not The Good Doctor. Good Sam, right? Where at the very beginning, her dad gets shot.
Yeah, I remember you saying
But that one, you could almost tell it was coming. Anyways. Yeah.
And then, yeah, it's short as well, only 30 minutes. I was glad that I clicked onto this thing. I was expecting 48 minutes, like a Jack Ryan type of runtime.
It did look like that from the cover.
And it just, and it flew by. Pacing was not a problem with this show. I mean, it was rushed by the end, but there was never a point where I felt bored. I was always just there was always something that was happening, and I do give it credit for that. But yeah, really, when I guess go to my cons, it's just the fact that some of it just felt unnecessarily crazy, and really it's just that last third half I could not get over.
Was the oral that they showed really gratuitous, or was it just in a grainy camera thing?
It was gratuitous.
Okay.
In fact, you can even see Regis Pladoff kind of really
get into it.
really get
All right.
into it, yeah.
They've compared this show to a lot of stuff, but Severance, because of the workplaceness and the weird strangeness of it.
It could go supernatural at some point. It could go really science fiction.
Well, then it'd be more like Servant.
But this was
Tony's
grounded
other
in
film.
reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't think that there's a chance that this guy's the devil?
No, is that some type of conspiracy going on online?
A little bit, the guy had sold his soul or something like that.
That could be it. I mean, he does act like it, but again, it didn't seem like Regis Pladoff was someone that would kill anyone. But I don't know.
We Crashed.
We crashed
in Super Pump. They compared it to that because of the crazy leader of a new tech company.
I never saw We Crashed, but in the sense of Super Pumped, I remember Joseph Gordon-Levitt, kind of the charisma and somewhat evilness that he had in that show. You can compare that to Regis, sure.
Yeah, and I think this takes place in Arizona, which would make a lot of sense because a lot of Bentley Little's books take place in Arizona. And
At the beginning, when she's escorting the students, she walks into Sang's room. We actually never see Sang talk. We only see his dead body and that little thing on the camera. But she says the kids from Glendale are here. So yeah, I think
Glendale, Arizona. Yeah, he's from Mesa, and other books that we've done that have been adapted into TV shows, like The Luminaries, Dark Winds, Lovecraft Country. All of them had their authors based in the place that they made the book, so it makes sense. And is there a Phoenix group?
No, not from what I saw, at least.
All right, then we'll skip over that.
I know that, yeah, you said all 8 episodes, or at least I saw that all 8 episodes were released on the same day, and I'm glad that Amazon Prime did that, because I don't think that this is a show... I think this show was meant to be binged. I don't know what, the creator said about that at all, but it seems like if you're going to watch this show, it would probably be good to do it in only a couple sittings.
You did watch that other Christoph Waltz show, the Queeby one, that was that they turned into a movie?
Well, that was turned into a movie, yeah, a couple
and he
weeks
plays
ago.
sort of a villain in that. Is his villain more compelling in that show or in this show?
I would say this show, because this show he at least does some odd but unique tactics. In the Queeby movie, I feel like they just needed a villain. They were like, let's throw in Christoph Waltz because he's likable.
Okay. Well, the overall response has been mixed to positive. You do have places like Collider that loved it, saying it's a never-ending sense of enigma that makes The Consultant such a thoroughly enjoyable watch. While you also had places like Slant, which hated it, and they said, we never see an ordinary workday, and we have so little sense of the characters' personal lives that any mention of them feels jarring.
No, I mean, I can agree with that, because, again, they never go back to the kid. I feel like the kid was just there for that one purpose, and I feel like we're not going to know anything else about him.
Well, there is a cliffhanger, I think, at the end that people are very opinionated about. Decider said stream it. Has a 6.8 on IMDb. Other than that,
6.8
though,
I feel like is, I mean, I know I gave the first episode a 6, but I feel like it at least deserves a 7 for the overall show.
you haven't seen it, though.
That's the sense I'm getting, at least.
All right. Well, other than that, anything else you wanted to add?
No, that's about it.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.